Welcome to Bet Doctor, a behind the curtain look at how pro punters operate. I'm joined by the punters punter, Dan Kelly, DK, WinBet Dan on Twitter, and the new star of the show, Darcy, Spinks.
Again, Darcy.
Welcome
hey
back.
guys,
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Now,
For another week.
Darcy, a little birdie tells me that you were marooned on the couch all weekend and you were just betting.
Look, I wasn't on the couch. I was in and out of the house. I was laying by the pool. But yes, I did put a few bets on and I did win some.
You did. Good.
So
There you
I'm
go. That's what we want.
stoked.
Yeah,
Yes.
What was the strategy?
Look, just listening to you guys
Yeah.
and my dad and his brothers.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did well. So you've converted me.
Oh, good. That's what we want. Winning first up. So
Yeah.
a good sign.
It's only taken a couple of weeks to get Darcy inducted into the betting world, and the race day at Caulfield certainly helped as well. So we took her out to Caulfield for people tuning in for the first time, and like a duck to water, and all of a sudden it converts to racing at home. So it does work out there. So we need to get more people on track, and that's probably a good segue into a couple of hot topics. But DK, we had the big Little Birdie Diamond stream on the weekend.
We did.
What did you think of it there?
It wasn't. I mean, the results obviously didn't go the boys' way, which wasn't great. You sort of need the results to go your way to have a big day, and we want everyone to win. But they said they go down swinging, and they did. But their analysis, I think people still would have got something out of the analysis and their knowledge, and I thought that was a good part of it. But
Wasn't to be.
Wasn't to be. Had a good swing in the big race, which is that's what the Dogs boys did.
Yep.
Similar. Made that their main bet for the day, but that didn't pan out.
Yep.
Ran well that horse, but it just wasn't good enough on the day. But yeah, I thought you would have got something out of the analysis side of it. I hope, but just unfortunately the results, which has just been a pattern of all the racing streams so far. Just haven't been able to get those results in the critical races. So anyway.
And what about you? You were on the couch with Juppy, and
On the couch, with Jupp,
how have you recovered from the big day? I think we're just going to play a little clip, a little bit of
What's happened here?
magic of TV, and we've got a little clip from the weekend.
So we found here? Yeah, me and Juppy on the couch.
You on the couch, and then we've
and
got
Rexy.
the sausage dog.
Oh yeah.
He's just taken a big shining to you. DK, what were you wearing? Was it Lynx or a special cologne? But he's absolutely
Rexy.
going hammer and tog on your arm. What's going on? And I think he just backs up as well. He's not done.
He
He
comes
hasn't.
again. Yeah.
It's a real hot minute there.
He's really taking a liking to you.
Oh, gee, it's been a while since.
Hey?
Anyway, it's taken a liking to me. Oh, Rexy. That's me. The dog loves me. There we go. Your man, little Rexy.
I think next time we can start bringing Rex in the office. He has the magic, the big snip tomorrow.
You're going to get my leg.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, he's going to the
right,
back wheels
okay.
come out
Back wheels come out.
tomorrow. But just getting on to a bit of an issue that we ran into, and it wasn't Rex the sausage dog trying to mount you, but we had the Noonan boys in the stream. So those guys were betting, and they're obviously connected to some punters up in Queensland who do the yard and do some on-course analysis, and they sort of work as a team to promote racing in the racing show, their podcast, and they ran into an issue with the Brisbane Racing Club. And so we had the guys in the stream, and then we had 3 punters on track that were recording themselves only, FaceTiming effectively back into us, into the stream, and they've ended up coming into trouble with the BRC officials, and they've got surrounded by a lady from the BRC and then 3 security guards as well, which seems pretty heavy-handed. So the 3 guys are just sitting there. They were up in the stands. They had their microphone. Before the race, they'd recorded themselves talking and communicating back to us saying, we like ABC and this is what's happening on course, all really harmless, trying to encourage turnover, trying to get, their opinion of what's happening in the last minutes of betting back to us. So they're not taking any pictures of ponies. They're not taking any pictures of what's happening on track. It's just their ugly mugs on the screen saying, we think this is how you should bet, and trying to help the guys get an opinion or validate why they're coming up with their selection. And the difference is here, in Victoria, that's okay. So you're allowed to do that. But in New South Wales, we've had the situation with the Racing Rant, and those guys have been booted off. And now in Queensland, you need, and I think it's in both places, you need media accreditation to send any type of communication back off course. So everyone's got a mobile device, and we went through the Brisbane Racing Club's terms and conditions of entry. So basically anyone that sends back any video footage, and even the lady from the BRC, she's even said that calling information back to people in a room is also prohibited, which is just archaic. It's unbelievable. So it's amazing that if we sent Darcy to the races and said, Darcy, take a picture of you having a drink, having a giggle with the girls, maybe do a boomerang, post that to Instagram, well, technically you're broadcasting back to the track. From the track, back to your audience and back to your fan base on Instagram. You got 30,000 followers. I'd say that's a mass audience.
Yeah.
So we had 5,000 people watching the stream, and we had about 500 concurrent viewers at the time. We probably should have got media accreditation and permission. Fair enough, but in Victoria we don't have to operate under those rules, so it was brand new circumstances for us. So we'll put our hand up, and the boys have too, and said that we probably should have gone down the proper channels. But I think it's time for race clubs who are absolutely desperate for people to go on course. There's no one there, especially post-COVID. It's very difficult to get on track and move around anyway. It's so disgraceful that you can post a picture of yourself, a boomerang, you in your fancy your outfit, and post and put that up online to Instagram and Twitter and all that sort of thing. But if you're a punter and you ring or call someone or FaceTime and try and encourage them to bet, which ultimately funds the industry for betting, you have to hand your camera back in and you're prohibited.
Yeah.
And if you keep doing it, you'll get booted off the track and you'll probably get
off course.
Exactly, it's sort of off course. So the boys, one stayed on course and two of the guys end up working from home.
Yeah. It's just, times have changed.
Yeah.
It's again racing behind the times, social media and it's about growing the sport, isn't it, Scoot? That's what we're about, and that's what race clubs should be about, and growing wagering. Now, are they helping to drive wagering and trying to reach a new audience and all that sort of thing? Of course they are. 1974 stuff, mate, which is, doesn't mean that's. I'm surprised it's in New South Wales as well. So they've got the same rule in New South Wales. But as I said, if you've been to the races in Gardner Doomben and those places, it is like taking a step back in time. So it wasn't a total shock, but it's 2021 now, and social media and, like I said, videos and all this sort of stuff. And were they trying to block some sort of information or trying to protect their media rights or something?
Well, it must be just tied up with Sky and Tabcorp. But Darcy, you've got your own marketing agency. How vital is user-generated content? People and brands are desperate for customers to go and create all this content and push it back and showcase the product, which is in this case racing in the sport and betting.
Yeah, absolutely. It seems a bit odd that you can't call and video, and because they want coverage, they want people there, they want people sharing their experience there, because that's encouraging people to come next time. So it does seem a little bit left of centre to me as well.
It was. The guys posed a question. They said, what's the difference between voice messages, text message, and then the live recording, which we're not live anyway. It's about a 50-second delay before we and then post up onto YouTube. So we're not infringing there, and it's not like real-time pictures, and there's no big scoop here. It's just opinions. But
so was it
the hypocrisy is crazy, because trainers video record jockeys when they come off the horse. They do voice messages, send them back to owners. But as soon as you do the same thing and encourage someone to have a bet, and they can bet wherever they like, all of a sudden it's a big crime. And the BRC lady, she said, if you keep asking questions, we'll escort you off the track. She was completely out of her depth. She didn't know what turnover was.
It would have been just a stiff in a green coat.
It's just unbelievable that it's come this way. But the guys, they're not going to make a big deal of it here and now, but I just think someone needs to pull their socks up. And Racing Queensland, I think they're on our side, but the BRC and the race clubs themselves, they need to lighten up, and they need to speak to their wagering partners and their media rights people for the greater good of the game, and they need to abolish this rule. If someone's on their iPhone or a small device and they're not taking pictures of the horses or what's happening on track, we need to open this up, and we need to open up in a hurry, because at the moment racetracks are dying. It's very difficult to get on there and move around in COVID times, and we need to showcase the sport back. Like in COVID, punters kept the industry afloat, and we'll talk about that a little bit more.
Did they? What? But and hopefully this raises the issue, mate. I mean, hopefully it takes. Normally there's a tipping point. Hopefully this experience puts this on the sort of top of the agenda for that draconian rule to be changed. And the race clubs, again, what you said, Darcy, they want people to share their experiences. So people through the door, and then that's part of it. So that rule at least has to be tweaked or needs to be modified. And absolutely, But
you're encouraging people.
It's all, and it's about growing our sport. And I think there's a bit of false sense of security, which we'll get to because of COVID, because the wagering and the clubs, everything was so strong during COVID. But it was an outlier, and we'll get to that later anyway. But anyway, Scoot. But as I was just going to say, one of our John McLeod, who did our Little Birdie Millions. I mean, I get his stuff, but he posted on Twitter and Facebook and things like that. So a quick video, track conditions, how he thinks the rail will play, things like that. So whether it's live stuff or pre-record, it's all got to be tightened.
Yeah, it's got to be shared, and that's okay for I guess a shit pot meeting somewhere like Ipswich or Kilcoy or where the masses don't want to go. Well, police it properly or don't police it at all. But it's just an archaic rule that just needs to change. Yeah. Anyway, like on a lighter note, there was a big winner on Saturday, and it was youngcare.com.au, and they do housing for the disabled, and we managed to raise $4,700 with our free bet profit. Thanks to TopSport. So yeah, there was a couple of winners there for charity. So $4,700. I spoke to a lady on the phone yesterday, and they are absolutely delighted with the donation. So a big thanks to everyone that participated in the stream, and of course TopSport for making that possible. It's great work what they do. So that's www.youngcare.com.au. Check it out. Housing for the disabled. I couldn't think of a better cause, and we just had to follow up. We tried to win the money for the Little Birdie Millions, and we've butted up and got them a prize for the Little Birdie Diamonds. So brilliant stuff there. Okay, on today's show to move along, we've got Mintbet. We've got Casey McCutcheon. You'll remember him from season 1. He's a character, this bloke. He'll preview the big races at Flemington, and there's big changes to Sydney Metro Racing. They're going from 9 to 10 races. We'll cover that. And DK's got one for us out wide at sale. His subscription package starts next week. From March, it's going to be March Madness, so DK's provincial out wide stingers will be coming to the Little Birdie shop. And then we've got some TopSport big bets and market movers. There's a couple of horses that have gone off early in TopSport markets, so you can follow them on Saturday. But speaking of TopSport, Darcy, when you're betting with your family, and well, actually, when you're taking a break from the pool and going inside to watch the races, who are you betting with?
So, I'm betting with topsport.com.au, owned and operated by the Merlihan family for 30 years. Bet Australian and bet with people you can trust. Topsport.com.au, and please gamble responsibly.
Up next, we've got Casey McCutcheon from Mintbet. Welcome back to Bet Doctor, a behind-the-curtains look at how pro punters operate. I'm your host, Scoot, with DK, the punter's punter, and Darcy Spinks. But first and foremost, we need to introduce Casey McCutcheon from Mintbet. You remember him, punters, from season 1. He's an entertainment machine, and I tell you what, he's a good-looking rooster too. He could feature on Nip Tuck, or he might be the Hugh Jackman of horse racing. He is a good-looking rooster. Case, welcome to the show.
Gee whiz, that's a very warm welcome, Scoot, and I'll take everything I can get. Love to have Hugh Jackman's sort of setup, but I wouldn't mind just backing a few winners at the same time. So, looking forward to Saturday at HQ. We've got what should be a perfect day ahead of us, even though the Weather Bureau recently has been about as useful as a chocolate teapot, but they reckon it's going to be perfect. Track should be perfect, and we've got the good horses out, so bring it on.
How have you gone over summer, Case? I know you've been dabbling in the tennis, you're a big Djokovic man, but the weather's snapped in Melbourne, which I'm not wrapped with, and I'm tipping Darcy isn't either, but it's not pool weather anymore. But how was your summer? How have you handled the break?
Well, I got coast or Bayside, before the world ended, and it's been all right getting down the beach for a bit of a stroll, and then took in a bit of the tennis. Been trying to get to the races to do some bookmaking when I can, but that's been nipped in the bud several times. So I've been keeping it real down here, mate. We're fine, and the only way is up, isn't it, in the beautiful state of Victoria? And now we've got the Autumn Carnival to keep us well and truly excited and occupied. All good, mate. The tennis was fantastic, though. Djokovic, the gift that keeps on giving. Fair dinkum. When the market cottons on the hem, it'll be a sad day.
Yeah, $1.9 in the final. We spoke about it on Little Birdie podcast yesterday. Mark Goodwill thinks he's money, but amazing record, 9 zip in finals, and it's just crazy how the price stands up. But it's very exciting this weekend. Back to headquarters, we've got Flemington, we've got the 2 Group 1s, we've got the Group 2, Blamey Stakes, and you're keen to play one here, Case. Run us through the race, and we've got a speed map on screen now.
I've knocked up a little map here, and it doesn't suggest a whole heap of speed. So the Group 2 mile here, the Blamey, does get you into the All-Star Mile, which is a big caveat and something to consider, had to consider when looking at these runners and what they're up to, because you can pretty much guarantee a few of these are here to really win this race. Buffalo River, the favourite. Everyone's, continues to warm to it. And Jamie Carr is probably just trying to find the key to this horse. We've seen it bolt a couple of times, and it's it's an on-speeder, it's a goer. But it's been left a sitting duck a couple of times. Jamie Carr openly admitted last time she got there a bit early, and she was bloused by the recent punters Powell regards Marie. So I would see Irish Flame kicking up here and leading for Michael Walker. Damien Oliver will be on best of days from the outside, and he got a picnic last start and obviously won. So those two horses I can see forming the speed with Buffalo River, maybe even taking a sit. Obviously, if Buff doesn't want to play ball there, he'll roll forward for Jamie Carr. So that'll be the interesting part of it. If she can get him to switch off, she will wait this time, and she won't get going too much further before the 300 or the clock tower, as they say. But the really interesting runner here that I probably got through all the form and thought, really warming the Buffalo River here. But Star of the Seas is the one that jumps off the page for me. The form that around this horse, and I know, Scoot, you have had a few hard luck stories around this horse last spring. Just read off the names that were beating this horse. Very Elegant in the Wink Stakes, beaten by Colding in the George Main. Ran Probably to 3 lengths, giving it 3 kilos. That's all tick, tick, tick. So when you figure out that he's down here to win the Waller's down here to possibly get in the All-Star Mile with this horse, then he could be quite competitive on Saturday. So it's around 5 to 1 with the bookies. I think TopSport might have had some money for it.
Yeah, Darcy, what's the betting on Buffalo River, the favourite first, and then Star of the Seas, who Casey's found there?
Yeah, so we have Buffalo River, was $3.10, now $2.80. And then we have Star of the Seas at $8 and now $5.50. And TopSport has $1,000 on when it was $8.
So they've already laid the big bet. And I think, Case, the key to this horse, I know this horse really well, and it's nearly too soon to talk about the 30s that it went down in by under a length, but I'm still just absolutely sick on that. But this horse, the key to it is, it's just a bomb fresh horse. So first and second up in its prep is where you want to catch it. The deeper into the prep, this horse just falls to pieces. And DK, what are you going to say?
Right at change too. Everyone's talking about J Carr, and rightly so at the moment, but D Lane's going just as well. He's just going just as well, and it gets him on. Buffalo River said J Carr's already had 2 rides on it, and she's still trying to get it right and everything with that horse. Where this horse gets D Lane on, and I think that's a big positive.
And when you look at the mile races at HQ so far this year, they're the 2 names that pop up. They're the best performers, but they've been really performing all over everywhere. But he had a couple of maybe flat weeks after coming back from Japan, and was going here, there, and everywhere trying to get some form. But once he hit it, probably at the start of the spring last year with Humidor, it hasn't really stopped since then for Damien Lane. So you're as in capable hands with him as anyone else. So really looking forward to seeing probably just where he slots in. But when you got a hoop like that, you can trust. The race doesn't end there. So there's a couple of other interesting runners. So where's Mystic Journey? Mystic Journey has currently got a few statues of it being built down in the Upper Lyle by some of my bookmaking brothers after getting rolled at 10s on and 5s on. Thank you very much. The first...
I've never seen. I've been just hang on, Case. I've been going to the races. How many years? What am I? 46. 40 years. I've never seen one in the form guide having gone over at $1.10, $1.22 in a row. Never seen it in my time.
Wow.
But they mean something though, those SPs. They mean something. So they could hold her instead, getting back to Flemington.
Bounce back.
Definitely have to take on trust. But there was excuses in that first one, DK. They went horrifically slow early, and she got home fine. Probably the last 600 to 800 in that first defeat, just given too much to do. But the second one was a little flat. Obviously, Trinder and they'll be taking her on trust, and the punters will have to too. They get 4 or 5 to 1 for the privilege because her form is good enough if she does show up. And obviously, they'll be trying to get her in that All-Star Mile again that she won a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and that's the thing.
And outside of that, 50 Stars is a horse that won this race last year at 6 to 4, but not ready this year, I don't think. Missed the race with the virus, missed a run with the virus. had to haul up to Sydney to get a run under its belt last week in what was the race? It was the Apollo. Just went up there for a pipe cleaner and was very plain. His target's the Australia Cup. Talking out of me kick here because I'm on him for that. So I want to see something out of him and hope he's rattling, but just don't think it's his day. Inclined to risk best of days and stick with the favourite, but I'll be backing Star of the Seas. Beautifully named horse too, Star of the Seas, if you look it up. But Star of the Seas looks the value, and I'll be saving Buffalo River just in case Jamie Carr Masterclass gets the best out of him.
I think it's an interesting one that you talk about with Mystic Journey. She's got a big PB at this track and trip, and the models will definitely find. And then I guess Luke Curry's just started to hit a bit of form as well, so there'll be money for it. And the last start SPs, I think you're right. It's not a horse that I definitely want to be with, but I think you guys
can see the models just
they're going to zoom in and keep that price in short. So there could be a lay opportunity, and it could promote some value into other runners. But I think Case is all over it here with finding the value pick in the race, and that's definitely Star of the Seas. Let's kick forward to the Group 1, the Australian Guineas. What's your read here, Case?
Yeah, it's a good Guineas. There's a bit to talk about here, and we have a look at I haven't got a speed map for you, but there should be a decent amount of speed in the race. You've got Grand Slam, who we know was the pacemaker in the Cox Plate as a 3-year-old coming from Gates, coming from the car park. So it'll boot forward. You've got Tagaloa and likely Zoo Dancer speed from the middle, and then you possibly got some speed with maybe Here to Shock or Poland from the inside. So there could be a bit of competition, and that's really the only knock that I've kind of found with Tagaloa, who I quite like. I mean, his performances this year, since being eased down in the Guineas, was really disappointing for them. Never on the track in the Manfred a month ago. Just kept coming, put the writing on the wall for that CS Hayes win, which it won really impressively. Portland Sky franked the form from the Manfred, and although I feel a tinge of nervousness around saying ASAR can't beat him, it really is hard to see based on the 2 runs that they've had in this prep. Just the questions on the map. So it's gate 10, and then Luke Curry in form, just trust. So that's all you can do. But hopefully he doesn't get posted like he did in the Manfred or something like that, because he will keep pushing on and can get a bit keen. So that is the question mark around it. You want to be informed coming into this race, and that's probably the key pot around Ollerkirk. And it's one blemish has kind of put the wind up us, but last week was pretty poor. They made excuses about the track. We'll find out on Saturday. But his CV was second to none as a spring 3-year-old. Beat all his horses, went past ASAR, who put his PB up in that Caulfield Guineas. So on a big track at Flemington, he'll be getting back and rattling. If he pops up, we'll be shaking our heads and going, oh, we should have given him another go at 7-1 or so with Kieran McAvoy. But interesting couple of runners here. And ASAR, the other one, who we're starting to maybe the punters might be getting a little bit sick of him. But his grand final in the Guineas was really impressive. There was no feline features about that. He got to the front and was just bloused by a superstar who was flying. So you have to respect that Guineas run from ASAR on a big track. Should suit him and at his right trip. So wouldn't put him out of calculations. Poor old Cherry Tortoni's drawn the car park, so I'm not sure where it's going to get to. Might get back and just be a little bit left, a little bit flat-footed compared to some of these others. But I'm quite happy to be with Tagaloa here. And the other one we need to mention is Zoo Dancer for Jamie Carr. No spoiler on the price. She was incredibly impressive in the Vanity. Really good splits and just left them for dead in that last furlong. So it's an exciting race, and I love that little dynamic of a filly in form. It's a good betting race and a good race to make a book in if you're on the track.
Just shows how 3-year-olds can rapidly improve, and that's why we like backing them, and a lot of my stuff focuses on them. I backed Zoo Dancer in a 1,000-metre maiden at Dunkeld back in November, and that once a year Dunkeld, and here she is lining up in the Australian Guineas like 3 or 4 starts later.
Yeah, it's amazing. Some of the value that you can get out wide, and that's why DK specialises in the maidens. He can catch horses with lots of ability on the up. He sees them from trials and other maidens, and he picks them off before they get to the hard races. So a lot of the time to bet in these sort of grand finals, there's not much value, and everything is sort of already known and it's priced into the horse. But yeah, there's a horse that I sort of don't mind here, Dom to Shoot. It's got Willie Pike this time, and it's had a pipe opener. It did really well. It was a really tough preparation last time at Ascot, so I'd be keeping it safe around the $11 mark. But Darcy, what's the price of Tagaloa?
Yeah, so Tagaloa was $3.90 and is now $3.60.
I think, Case, you're probably on the money here again. I think Tagaloa is a good way to play the race because it's got a really long tail from there. You can sort of maybe trip yourself up and get yourself into a bit of a mess.
Certainly wouldn't talk about a Dom to Shoot. That's a great call. It's snagged from from a wide gate. Got a good gate here. Willie Pipe, softer run. Can see it getting home and not a $10 double figures. So yeah, that's a lovely each way play.
And Case, before you go, will you be on course bookmaking somewhere on this Saturday?
Mate, wild horses couldn't keep me from the front lawn this week. It's going to be we're going to be perched out the front, hopefully able to serve the GA punters who desperately need a good bookie out there. We'll be looking after the punters on the Flemington front lawn. So come out and say g'day. Great banter last week with some of the Twitter punters. I think it was Mossy and the boys and a very impressive performance from the Mossy and the boys. They backed a few winners. The banter was strong and just great. It's great fun, you know. So come out and see us on the lawn with MintBet. Say g'day and we'll look after you.
The McCutcheons, mate, the marijuana bookies, they're always on the grass. That's where you can find them.
Always out on the lawn. Fantastic, Case. Thanks for joining us and good luck this Saturday.
All the best, guys. Thanks for having us.
And Darcy, you're already converted to a punter, but what about the form? Where do you do the form?
So, powered by puntingform.com.au, Australia's best online form guide and database. Scoot and DK use it, and I might need a subscription too.
Absolutely, we'll get you going.
Up next, we're going to talk Sydney racing. There's big changes for the Metro race numbers. They're gone from 9 to 10 races, and we'll talk about the prize money increases as well. Stick around. Welcome back to Bet Doctor, a behind-the-curtain look at how pro punters operate. I'm your host, Scoot. I'm joined by DK, the punter's punter, and Darcy Spinks. Now, first up, we're going to put a little graphic on the screen for the YouTube watchers, and I'll read what's on the screen for everyone listening out in podcast world on Spotify, Apple, or SoundCloud, or wherever you're finding us. But what we've got on the graphic, Racing New South Wales had a press conference, if you could call it that. It was barely. I think it was about 2 or 3 journalists there who weren't answering questions.
Greg Radley was one of them, wasn't he?
Bradley was sort of hosting, presenting, Sky Channel. He had the hat on, and I think it looked like they'd all got pre-prepared questions and notes, and they just let PVL, have a little song and dance.
That's how it is under a dictatorship. So
yeah.
North Korea up there, North Korea with the emperor in charge. That's it with PVL. That's what happens.
And I think Ray Thomas was there and Chris Root. So I've got a good relationship with Chris. But I'll read out what's on screen. So it's 20 million added in prize money, and it's Sydney Metro's Saturdays will now become 10 race cards. So they've gone from 9 races to 10 races. And so the minimum Saturday prize money is now $130,000 from July 1st. And then the Epsom, for example, has leapt from $500,000 to $1.5 million in prize money. And then we've got these new $100,000 midway races, which is sort of a similar concept to the highways. And so they're specifically for provincial trainers, and it's based on a point system. So the big boys will be locked out of these races because they've won too much and they don't qualify. But then on another good note, I guess, is the highways. They go up from $75,000 to $100,000. So in COVID times, the prize money levels took a little bit of a hit because racing didn't know what was going to happen. But now, all of a sudden, after a bonanza in wagering caused by COVID, which is, a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic, all of a sudden there's a cash influx caused by punters. And so Racing New South Wales have reacted and have increased the prize money, which is probably going off a little bit too early, I would have thought. Okay, not all of this I can criticise. There is some great wins here. So the Epsom, for example, 500 to 1.5 million, not a bad thing. You've got races like the Everest and other really big races that have got all this inflated prize money. So, okay, let's get the Epsom and jack a couple of these races up. I think the highway's going up, a good thing for country trainers, and I don't mind the concept of the midway. But
I would think of millions, and I think 500 to 1.5 is excessive. A $1 million race, just to me then, why is the Epsom being lower than those those
Pop-ups.
pop-up races as well. I like the 10 race cards on a Saturday. Saturday's racing. It's racing. It's number one day. It's like a fish and chip shop on a Friday night.
Yep.
It's the time of the week, the 12 till 6 or whatever it is on a Saturday, our time to shine in the sun, where most of the wagering for the week's done.
Yep.
So I think 10 race cards, and while on that, a bit
here
of
we go.
self-interest. I cannot see, while there's so many eyes on racing on a Saturday, why the Victorian Saturday provincials are generally ordinary meetings at Yarra Valley and these other joints. Why we're not racing at Ballarat, Bendigo, Sale, and places like that on a Saturday with good big fields where the big tracks where the good trainers want to go.
Yep.
And there's good jockey. We've got good jockeys riding the provincials on a Saturday. There's not enough. We've got a lot of jockeys in Melbourne. So why don't we don't have better races on a Saturday? It's just beyond me. Anyway, so I'll bang on the table.
He's definitely fired up, and I think that's to Racing New South Wales credit. I think they do that really well. So they have Kembla and they have Newcastle
every Saturday.
It's a tick to Racing New South Wales there.
And then they have an out wide meeting on top of that, another little country meeting further out wide.
Yeah, and so, I think Queensland do it well too. They always have the Gold Coast, which punters like to sort of bet on that track as the secondary meeting. And so maybe that's something that Queensland could look at as well, like Sunshine Coast and the strong provincial meeting on the Saturday. To me, that makes a lot of sense. And I've been speaking to a couple of other pro punters, like in our chat groups and things like that, and not all of them are wrapped with the extra card or the extra race on the card. Some think it's, here's another form race that we have to do and all that sort of thing. But I guess you're not obliged to bet into every race, so I think you can argue it both ways. So if they can shorten the race times, which is important to this, try and shrink it so there's not 45 and 40 plus minutes between races, I think it'd be a great thing, and try and get close to that sort of half an hour gap. I think that'd be great. And I think something else that Racing New South Wales needs to do, you can make all these big calls and say, oh, well, there's been a bonanza and all this stuff and everything's going really well in wagering, but show us the evidence and tell us what's going on. And that's a stark difference in Victoria versus New South Wales. So from the Daily Telegraph, it's up on the screen again now, the success of mega-rich races, the Everest and the Golden Eagle in recent years has given the Sydney Spring Carnival new impetus, and Racing New South Wales chairman Russell Balding felt it was imperative that traditional feature races also received prize money increases. Okay, so a couple of things on this. The Everest and the Golden Eagle, they are overly inflated, the amount of prize money. You get the same fields with probably half the prize money spent, but where's the proof and where's the ROI? New South Wales have got a habit of hiding the evidence and hiding the truth. I used to work for Betfair, and we used to get shown every Monday all the key metrics around all the wagering service providers. So you hear them talk about WSPs, and so all the racing administrators in Victoria share this information. So you know how the vital signs are looking for the TAB, for Betfair, for all the corporates, for the on-course bookies, and you've got a really clean, open, transparent guide so you can all grow the game together. And I think that's what Racing Victoria do really, really well, and that's what Racing New South Wales don't do. So where's the evidence and where's the proof that these mega races, the Everest and the Golden Eagle, are producing a really good ROI? Like, they're only really marketed strongly through the major channels that PVL has his foot on. And Sky Channel promote these things to the exclusion of all the other races, like the Everest and all those sort of things. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me. And the odds and evens, we won't get into this, but that was sold as the thing that's going to prop up and pay for these big pop-up races like the Gong and all that. I tell you what, that's fallen flat on its head. There's no turnover in any of those
believe
balls.
We're still going. We saw the results pop up the other day. I was watching.
They're
Sky
still
Channel.
promoting it.
Oh. Yeah.
It's just utter madness. And there's a little thing on. We're providing a lot of things on screen here today, but this is an example of what they do in Victoria. So you've got Josh Blanksby, who's the Melbourne Racing Club CEO via Twitter. Here's an example. Key metrics from the Blue Diamond Stakes Day at Caulfield. On Saturday, the crowd was X, which was 5,600 under COVID. The domestic wagering turnovers, 82 million, up 36% year on year. And the track was a good 4 versus a good 4. Same, like really strong fields in terms of starting numbers. And there he goes. So as soon as he's got that information, he tweets it out. So why can't we see the same from New South Wales? Like, we talk about this because we're passionate about the game and we want the game to grow, but it's sort of 1984 stuff up in New South Wales, whereas Victoria are clear and open and transparent. So I just don't understand why it has to be such a dictatorship up in New South Wales. So it's interesting, isn't it? The punters always fit the bill. But we're going to play a little bit of an excerpt from Peter Volandi's press conference, and where he said in a breath, all participants have been consulted and supportive. So I'm not sure which punters wanted all these prize money increases, but we're going to play a clip here now.
John Massar and
Yeah, for 30
others.
seconds. Let's hear the great PVL speak.
The betting turnover increased dramatically over that period. So people staying at home were certainly betting, and they were betting on New South Wales race meetings and in particular our big races. So we were able to generate more revenue than what we expected, and like any entity, we return those revenues back to our participants. If we're a public company, our dividends is prize money. So the prize money goes back to the participants, and they all can compete to get that prize money.
It's incredible. So just there, he's basically said that there's a big boom in turnover in COVID times. And then what they're basically doing by giving the prize money back, they're paying out dividends like shareholders in a company. Excuse me, Peter, I own a horse, but then at the same time, I'm a punter. But as a punter, with prize money going up, if I'm just a standalone punter, I'm not getting any dividends back. It's actually it's been more expensive than ever to play the game. The only thing that you can do to produce a dividend back to me is change a couple of things to make my life easier. You got to take the rake and make the commission that we pay less, or you need to increase minimum bet laws and open it up so I can get a bet on early. Because at the moment, inflating the prize money only suits the trainers, the breeders, and the owners. So what you've just heard Peter V'landys say there is complete furphy. And I can't believe no one in the room, I can believe it, because there's Ray Thomas in there and Chris Roots, and no one has got the balls to absorb or think about what it said. They're all just reading off scripts, and they need to critique it. Like, this is a big thing, and if we keep letting PVL just run rampant, when he goes, the game's going to be in rubble and ruin. You just can't keep pouring money into prize money to just inflate everything. It should be going the other way, if anything, or we should be getting a rebate. Punters need a leg up. So, for example, a mate of mine, he turns over tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes like millions in a month. If he went to go on track, he'd have to pay his own way. There's no red carpet for him. It's just absolutely upside down, the current landscape for punters. There's not much in it for us.
And pre-COVID, you know how wagering figures were? They're going down. They were really worried about what the report was going to say when they were going to get it halfway through last year, but they knew they were on the decline. All of a sudden, COVID's come along. I don't know whether PVL's got a false sense of security or something here. We're still, good wagering figures at Mooney Caulfield are still up, so we had probably hopefully have grown the game in that zone. A lot of people who maybe didn't bet on horse racing.
Yeah, there's COVID overflow.
COVID overflow. They started betting on racing and
and
attracting a new crowd, which is really good.
And people are more likely to stay at home, so they're probably turning over more money. It's hard, it's hard at the moment to move around.
But the base of it is he's not going to come out and say in 12 months we're reducing. Well, we've got to reduce prize money by 30% and all this across the board because wagering figures aren't great. I mean, these changes are there to stay, so they've got to be propped up. And anyway, but he's just, and it's the Melbourne versus Sydney thing. Did you see that? I mean, earlier I saw the thing you said. There was a snide little remark there. You'll be better off racing in Sydney and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah, and this won't be open to New South Wales
and he's got
Victorian participants. So it's always this tit for tat struggle. But what Racing New South Wales can't even do, I think the second most popular meeting is the Moonee Valley Nights each week. Like, for heaven's sake, you've got prime time captive audience. The world's moving to sort of night racing, and that's where the punters want the product to be. Like, get your act together in New South Wales. Why don't you just mirror the Moonee Valley night racing season and let punters operate, as you sort of say? Like, you got prime time coverage, and New South Wales can't even mirror the Moonee Valley night meetings. Anyway, I think we're going to have to take a break. I'm really heated up about this, but hopefully we can get someone out there to write a piece about this from a journalist point of view, because enough's enough. Like, the punters can only take so much, and things just need to change. We need minimum bet laws, or we need some sort of chop out, because I tell you what, they're just going to kill the golden goose. Yeah,
well, that's right. Well, as I said, spot on, Scoop. I think we've spoken over. We could go on for another 15 minutes about this, but we'll give it a spell, eh?
Speaking about another cost that we incur is databases. But if you're looking to build a database, where do you go, Darcy?
At puntingform.com.au. Buy the raw data, build a racing model, and use them for your own speed map and sectional times analysis. Punting Form, the number one choice of professional bettors.
Up next, we're going to talk DK out wide. He's got something for us at sale, and we're going to look at TopSport's big bets. Welcome back to Bet Doctor. I'm your host Scoot, joined by the punters, punter DK and Darcy Spinks. It's a behind the curtain look at how pro punters operate, and we've decided, somewhat in protest, to not preview any races in Sydney, but we're going to slip down to Sale. Beautiful little Sale, and I'll tell you what, Sale needs a little bit of a boost. I drove the back way to Ulladulla for Christmas holidays, and I'll tell you what, regional Victoria is absolutely in dire straits. So if you can, make sure you try and get to country Victoria and support all the coastal towns at the moment. COVID has absolutely hit them for six. So Sale is where we'll be ambling on Friday tomorrow.
Yeah,
so DK, out wide. This is your specialty, the out wide week meetings. Yeah.
So, we'll be kicking off next week, Scooty. And so we thought we'd do a race and just... maybe give an idea. So here we've got a speed map. It's race 4. It's a 1,400 metre maiden, so it's right in my wheelhouse. And it's a pretty skinny race, I thought. The favourite will be the Stager. It'll come up pretty short. There's no markets, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's the punting form neural price. So that's just a modelled price once there's no early prices in the puntingform.com.au database. So they're not DK's prices, but he'll talk through the speed map now.
Yeah. So the Stager, look, he's got blinkers on. He's got Jamie Mott. Jamie Mott has got soft hands, and he does have a designated leader in the race, so he's going to get a beautiful spot behind Lock-In Rocky Roy, who was accepted tonight, but he's scratched and running tomorrow on his home track. Lock-In Rocky Roy, 2 starts ago at this track, and he since went out really quick and did run pretty well, but he's a one batter. Behind them, De Bullet probably needs further, but he ran okay first up, and there's a couple of non-winners, Capito and Miss Vicky. They're both none from 14 or something. But that horse just parked there behind Capito. Our Little Ripper is sort of the one I want to focus on. This horse is on the quick backup from Yarra Valley on Saturday. And the jury was out. He trialled really good coming into this prep. Was a big tip, a big streak first up. But sort of failed and then went too hard next start in front and failed again. So at Yarra Valley the other day, they changed the tactics and rode him for cover. And he had a wide draw, so for that cover, he had to go back to last. But what he did do was he hit the line really hard late, which that was the trick, I think. So he's got Ben Allen, he's got a good rise going from a kid to Ben Allen going to a senior rider, which I like. The change of tactics wasn't go back, the change of tactics was to get cover. So he can sit closer here, which he'll need to. He won't want to be given the stage at too big a start. So I thought he might be able to come across and sit behind Capito and maybe 1 out, 2 or 3 back. If he can hit the line with that gusto he charged late at Yarra Valley, which I think he can with the preferred cover, I think he's a good chance to upset the Stager. The Stager had a bit of an empty out last start. It was a bit of a brutal race. Tycoon Bucks won it easily, sort of ran past the Stager and won by 5 lengths, and it didn't do a lot. He sort of didn't really frank that yesterday. So a couple of little niggles for a short odds favourite there. So I think our Little Ripper will be probably a play at each way odds. I think it'll be each way odds. Its form's not
$5 or better. Yeah.
Well, it doesn't read flash on paper, but loved its last 100. And what we have been seeing recently, which I have been spruiking a few times, is horses hitting the line from too far back on tight tracks.
Yep. At
the likes of Yarra Valley. Getting onto bigger, roomier tracks where they can balance up.
Big track profile switch, yeah.
And a profile switch, they can balance up and got more time to wind up. So here, he could only hit its top with 150 to go at Yarra Valley because it was the only time he balanced up. Now he can balance up at Sale, 300, 350 out, which I like. So they can build through their gears and a lot better. So it's something I've been talking about. So so I think our Little Ripper will be something there for the punters. Hopefully can run a race.
And if you want to learn something about track profile and stuff like that, there was a horse from Saturday from the Little Birdie Diamonds Day. There was a horse called Young Werther. Damien Oliver snagged this horse right back, and then if you watch closely in the last sort of 200 metres, this horse just absolutely zips home. So a horse like Young Werther is going to be suited from a switch from Caulfield, where he probably wasn't trying, but they've hooked him back, and then a big roomy track like Flemington where he can balance up. I think that's a horse to follow, Young Werther. But let's have a look at this week, the big bets and the market movers early from TopSport. Darcy, they're just on the screen now.
Yeah, so the first one we have Bob Hoisted, handicap, Flemington, race 5, number 10, Montessera, 2,500 at $5, now $4.80.
I haven't done this race in depth, but the CMAR stable would have this horse absolutely raring. I've got something to say about the next bet, I think.
Yeah, the next one we have Blamey Stakes, Flemington, race 6, number 7, Star of the Seas, $1,000 at $8, now $5.50.
Yeah, and Casey sort of touched upon this runner, and I think the key to this horse is just definitely first and second up in its prep. If it came out and won this week in the Blamey Stakes, I'd probably jump off it. I just don't think it's quite good enough to win an All-Star Mile. And I think there's other horses from better form races that would, have its measure.
You know this horse pretty well by the sound of
it just has to be bomb. It's bomb fresh or second up, and then you can just drop off this horse completely. So even though some people might think, oh, well, it's stepping up to the All-Star Mile, it will conk out, and I think a trainer like Chris Waller will have this horse cherry right for Saturday. So this will be its grand final.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
It was only 1,200 first up, so it was probably a clean up.
Yep.
So this, like you said, second up out to its right trip out to 1,600.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he's used a similar platform to get this horse to peak into a big race. So I think there was a 1,100 metre run before it peaked hard in a mile race. So if you go back deep enough into its form on puntingform.com.au, you'll see that this profile about Star of the Seas, he's ready to explode this horse. So I think that's a great way to play.
Yeah, right. There you go. It's one to watch. Then we have Surround Stakes, Randwick, Race 7, Number 7, Never Talk. $1,000 at $10, now $8.50.
It's an action-packed field. This one, you've got horses like Away Game, Dame Giselle, Montefilia. It's
Bit of a race.
Yeah, it's a really tricky race, and then you've got a horse like La Mexicana who's put two together impressively down here. So I couldn't be stepping into that race early. I'd let the market sort of tell me because there's horses sort of going places here.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you'd be watching the market late, absolutely, for sure, when there's so many alternatives.
All right, well, this episode, I guess, it's been a little bit political, but I guess we're dealt the hands, before us, and I think it was really important topics that we discussed today around the BRC and what was happening up in Racing New South Wales. It's a bit of a farce at the moment, and from here on in, we'll talk more about the racing. So we're going to do more previews, and we're going to preview more bets and talk about the sort of nuts and bolts. But the first two episodes back,
on the issues,
I think it's really important, and a lot of our fan base wanted us to talk about minimum bet limits and what's going on in the industry. So now we've got all the serious stuff out of the way.
Just on that, Richard and I, as we said, we had a
Richard
meeting.
Irvine,
Richard Irvine and I, we had a meeting with Racing Victoria last week.
Last Thursday,
in the
after
afternoon. It was really good. Yeah, it was really good meeting. They were receptive. They've obviously already had some thinking about the ideas and put it. So I would hope to see movement on the minimum bet laws.
Wow.
Some sort of update coming up.
That's big news, and
and deductions.
Yeah, so maybe a little double win there for punters. And I think, as Tristan Merlihan said, they're welcoming changes with deductions and minimum bet laws as well. I think Tristan's really open to betting bigger. And I guess, the corporates seem to be making a lot of money at the moment. And the way Peter Villand is spending, obviously, the administrators are doing really well out of the deal as well. So a little bit of relief is on the horizon, at least in Victoria, for punters, which is great news and great work,
Yes.
DK and Richard doing the lobbying there. But I think that's the end of our episode. If you're betting this weekend with those big limits, Darcy,
TopSport are betting everyone to win $10,000 in all the Group 1 races until they jump for this weekend.
Proper betting, absolutely. The Group 1s, bet Group 1s.
Yeah, big races and big bets, and that's what everyone wants. And tickets are now going to go on sale today for our live stream. So we've got Group 1 William Reid night, and so all the Little Birdie clan will be on course. We will have a team event. So we're trying to assemble two teams with starting banks, and they're just going to go hammer and tong each other on the live stream. So we're going to have sort of like competitive team betting, so it'll be A versus B. So we might try and get Casey on a team and he can be a captain. We'll have Mint Bet versus someone else on Moonee Valley Group 1 William Reid Stakes night. It's $150 per person for a ticket. I think Darcy will be with me.
What do you get for your
I'll
150?
come along.
What do you,
Two-course feed, you got drink all night,
drinks.
entry,
Beautiful.
race book, the whole box
Plenty
of
of value
guys.
there.
Can meet DK.
Yeah.
We might even put DK on a roving mic in the crowd, and we'll have some
That'll
other
be dangerous.
entertainment. Exactly.
What
and
more
we'll-
could you want?
Exactly. And we might even get a DJ. So there'll be plenty of fun, and it'll be the big Group 1 William Reid Stakes night. It's a great card of racing that night, and it'll be food and drink, and get to meet the team at Little Birdie, and you'll be able to ask questions from the live audience. So we'll have someone, if you want to learn about racing and learn how to bet, you'll definitely pick up lots of pearls there. So $150 per person. So head to littlebirdie.pod.com and head to the shop and secure the tickets because they will sell out fast. Talking to a couple of mates I know and other pro punters, I think, the first sort of 5 or 6 tables will get snapped
Snapped
up
up.
very, very quickly. So if you want a different form of entertainment and a different race experience,
Something
we're going to start
different,
to set the world
On
on
a Group
fire
1
here.
night too. Group 1
On a
night.
Group 1
Exciting
racing night. So everyone is starved of being at the track. So let's get back on track. Support the Moonee Valley Racing Club and racing in Victoria. And
does.
follow
Yeah.
us on BetDoctor TV on Twitter. And we're on Spotify, we're in the Apple Shop, we're everywhere. So whichever your favourite channel is, make sure you follow BetDoctor TV and Little Birdie Podcast on YouTube. See you next week.